All right, we are live. Happy Trendy Tuesday, everyone. Happy New Year and happy holidays, whatever you celebrate or don't celebrate. Hope you just had some good time off, whatever that is to you. So, it is our Trendy Tuesday this week. We have a topic on birth control in the new year. So, working out best practices for your reproductive health as we move into 2022, or we are in 2022. So, moving forward from here, as always, I am joined by Dr. Sophia Yen, the expert on all things birth control. So we'll be going over all of that stuff. And little reminder before we start, definitely follow us on social media at Pandia Health and feel free to leave us questions in the comments below and we'll either get back to you during or after the live. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So just kicking this right off, starting with a question that I thought was pretty encompassing of everything. So in moving into 2022, what are some good best practices for improving your reproductive health, specifically when it comes to birth control?
Well, I think if you are having regular heterosexual sex and you have a vagina and a uterus, then make sure you have your birth control under control, that you have your method selected. If you're having sex maybe once a month or less frequent than that, you probably get by with condoms plus a spermicide. But if you're having it more frequently than that, then you may want to consider a better method with a better efficacy. So all of the hormonal methods plus the copper IUD, and ranking just to remind everyone, because not everyone may have been on our previous talks, from
Mhm.
most effective to least effective, excluding vasectomy and tubal ligation, because I'm assuming our audience is not of the age where you want a permanent solution yet, but some of you do, and that's a separate discussion for you to have with your doctor. But then no, you should add vasectomy and tubal ligation. But the IUD and implants are actually beat tubal ligation, which is crazy talk. And then the
Mhm.
IUD with hormone, I believe, also beats vasectomy, which is crazy talk because that's like
Well,
serious, and that's reversible, which is awesome, the
right.
IUD. And then is the shot, but generally you have to get a shot every 3 months. And unless you like needles or you have access to a doctor's office, and given COVID again, maybe less access to doctor's offices, harder to
Mhm.
get. And if you're not ready for an implant or an IUD or a shot, then Pandia Health is here for you. And we can deliver the birth control pill. We can deliver the Twerla patch. If you want the other patch or the ring, then we can write the prescription, but you have to go get that at your local pharmacy. And so make sure you know all your options. I always say condoms plus a hormonal method or condoms plus the IUD, one for sexually transmitted infection prevention, and two, if you don't have that concern, just as a woman, I hate to leak sperm for 24 hours. So that's just for life and self-care of my vagina.
Yes, absolutely. And I had another question that I just thought of. So, yes, birth control, but brings me to my next question of when is a good time to schedule a gynecology appointment? When do you have to do that? How often should you do that? I feel like New Year scheduling all the appointments may be something to address.
Yes, I think a lot of us have put off our healthcare because of COVID. And I was just
Yes.
about to get all my stuff together. And then I was like, oh, COVID again. And so
Mhm.
I think once this Omicron peak has happened, and based on Europe, it kind of supposedly should be done by maybe, February or March is what people are guesstimating. Hopefully it will have run through the United States, and hopefully we
Mhm.
won't get another mutant. But if everyone got vaccinated, then we could decrease the natural COVID that's running around and decrease the likelihood of mutations. But that's not just in the
Mhm.
United States. We have to, expand it to other countries as well, because it can mutate in those countries. And if anybody travels to those countries and then brings it over, then we're all just going to get it again. So I would contact your doctor's office and check. But generally, a pap smear is recommended when you're 21 years old, or at least an HPV test. And then I believe, depending on the results, it's like every year for 3 years. And if it's negative for 3 years, then you can go to every 3 or 5 years. But look up the latest. I'm not up to date on the latest, because if you get the HPV vaccine, that greatly decreases your risk, but you still need
Mhm.
to get your pap smear, because the HPV vaccine, if you got the latest one, covers 9 out of 160, but that still leaves 151 types of HPV that you could get and cause cancer. Not all of them cause cancer, but a ton of them that are not covered. So don't assume just because you got the vaccine that you are protected
Right.
against cervical cancer. It's pretty good against warts, genital warts, and actually cross reactivity with just random warts like finger warts and whatnot, because it's still HPV. But
Yeah.
for cancer, don't mess around. Get your pap smears or get your HPV test, whatever's recommended by your doctor, primary care, or OB-GYN.
Gotcha. Cool. So if you are not sexually active at 21, should you still consider getting a pap smear just for general cancer screenings?
I would say that in Europe, they don't do pap smears until 25. And so if you've
Wow.
never been
Okay.
sexually active, never been sexually assaulted, then
Mm-hmm.
you probably don't need it generally until 2 to 3 years after your first sexual encounter. And the reason I
Gotcha.
say sexual and not heterosexual is sometimes women who've had relationships or with women, or those with uteruses, vaginas that have relationships with uterus and vaginas, have encountered a penis before. So if you've encountered a penis, then you've entered that into the equation.
Yeah.
And so just if both of you were just, if everybody's a virgin, then you don't have to worry about it. If one of you've had relationships with someone else and it was uterus vagina on uterus vagina, very low likelihood. But if any penis entered the equation, then that's the risk.
Good to know. It always poses a risk.
Yes.
But, always good
Just
to be safe.
I always
Yes.
assume everybody has every disease under the world, because with HPV, with HIV, with herpes, you could
Mhm.
bring it and I'd be like, that looks like the cleanest penis in the world, or that vagina looks clear, but you don't know unless you test
You
the
don't know.
blood or you test it. And so you can't tell just by looking. But that is the way we diagnose warts. We call it when we see it, but another way would be HPV test. And just
Gotcha.
know that there is no commercially available HPV test for the penis. Only in research studies where
Mhm.
they like sandpaper it down or something. There might be some direct to consumer tests that people are using nowadays, but again, most doctors' offices are not checking any penises for HPV.
That is good to know. I know, classic. We have to deal with everything, don't we?
Yes.
But it's good. Better safe than sorry. I wanted to mention that just because, again, I know a lot of people are scheduling their appointments now, and it just never hurts to call your doctor and also just ask around. I've had so many people ask me what gynecologist I go to in DC, and I'm so honored when people ask me that.
Ah,
So don't be afraid. People usually just want to help and help you have a good experience. So always, women supporting women or people supporting people. So something to keep in mind. So moving back to birth control, of course, we touched a little bit upon this, but what are some benefits of doing birth control delivery through Pandia Health or just in general versus doing pharmacy pickup birth control?
so for Pandia Health specifically, we are the only doctor-led, the only women-founded, women-led company in birth control delivery. So if you want to help a women-founded, women-led, minority-founded company, us versus some big pharma company.
Hmm.
If you want to compare us to other kind of delivery companies, also we are one of two companies that give you a freebie every single month. So people have
Hmm.
gotten upset if they don't get their freebie, but remember it's a freebie. But anyway, we generally give like 3 pieces of hide shoe, or I
Yeah.
love cold weather. So we've started out handing out almond roca. So there's dark roca
Mm.
and normal roca, and it's just random, whichever one you get. And if you're allergic to nuts, give it away. Again, it was a freebie. And then we've had soaps in the past. We're working with this green food company. She wanted to give us this really big
Mm.
package, but then we'd have to get bigger envelopes and it would weigh more. And so I was like, oh, bummer. Maybe we'll do a giveaway or something like that instead for her, but we can do her little ones instead. But I really wanted the chocolate because the chocolate would have been good. But we've given out condoms, we've given out stickers, we've given out pens, we've given out nail files, all these
Hmm.
kinds of goodies. And then the practical part is just, it is so 1990 to have to run to the pharmacy every single month to get your birth control. You should get it by mail. And number one is infectious risk, right? We are in the
Hmm.
heart of winter when all the viruses are happy. And then you throw on
Hmm.
COVID, 19, and then you bring on the Omicron variant in addition to the Delta variant. So if you're going to pharmacy, what do you want to bet? A lot of people go in the pharmacy have a cough, a sneeze,
Hmm.
COVID, not COVID, virus, another virus, influenza. If you don't get your flu shot, go get that as well. So one, infectious risk. And then two, I like to say hashtag better things to do. We
Yes.
calculate women spend 10 weeks of their lives going to the pharmacy,
Mm,
waiting for the medication because there's always a line, and then coming back home. So you could spend
mhm.
that time instead doing some exercise, dancing,
Yes,
reading a
absolutely.
book, playing a video game, doing your hair, whatever.
Mhm. Also, not to mention, I don't remember if I said this last time, without fail, whenever I used to go to pick up my birth control, because I actually use Pandia Health Services, I would always end up in the pharmacy just, like, walking around, ending up buying something unnecessary. So, it also helps with your
Saves
spending.
your bottom line.
Mhm. It
I always
definitely
say you
does.
buy something you don't need and at a price that you know you can get a better price on.
Mhm, absolutely, and also, something to mention is just how we do have really discreet packaging, and I like how you mentioned that you wanted to keep the packaging small just because it can be a little awkward if there's a big package every month that came to your apartment doorstep being like, "Sarah Druckmann birth control," so it's nice, it's very discreet packaging. It does say Panania Health on it, but no one would really put 2 and 2 together unless they're using Pandia Health, which is great. Um,
The
so
secret
yeah,
wink wink club.
exactly, which is also kind of fun. So always fun to do that. So moving to our next question, a little bit more of a serious one. So in 2022, are there any laws under review that might restrict access to birth control? And if so, how are there ways to work around that?
So my friend sent me a thing saying, they're coming after abortion, and next they're going to come after birth control, and then they're going
Yeah.
to outlaw the morning after pill. And I was like, nah, you are totally crazy. And then she sent me examples, and then I realized, oh, I forgot about that crazy.
Yeah.
So there are some states where obviously physicians and scientists are not leading the laws. Laws are written by lawmakers, and some of them have no experience, and some of them are lawyers. And so they didn't go pre-med. They aren't doctors. They don't
Yeah.
deal with patients. They don't understand mechanisms of drugs. And so one is they confuse a birth control with an abortion drug. So know that if you are pregnant, you have a positive pregnancy test, you have an embryo growing inside you, and you take the birth control pill, patch, or ring, nothing happens. The embryo continues to grow. So we've had patients that took their birth control pill
Hmm.
every single day, and then 9 months later,
Oh.
a baby popped out because they didn't know. And it was like, I thought I
Mm.
was gaining weight and I was wearing bigger, sweaters, and I thought I had weird indigestion. No, that was a baby growing
Oh my
around,
goodness.
moving around. That was not indigestion. Okay. So that person was not connected well with their body, but it does nothing. And so there's a difference between an abortion medication or an abortion
Hmm.
procedure where you have something stuck to the side of the uterus and you scrape it off and you toss it away.
Right.
That is not happening with birth control. However, some states, I think Texas and maybe like, I don't know, Alabama or Kentucky, something like
Yeah.
that, say that birth control, anything that blocks the egg and sperm once they hook up from sticking, then is an abortifacient by their definition, not by any doctor's definition or the general medical community. There might be, a couple very religious, conservative, political doctors that may say that, but the majority of the physicians, and certainly in the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, American Medical Association, American Academy of Pediatrics, American Association of Family Planning, would not call birth control an abortifacient. And so when they outlaw abortifacients, that could include the birth control pill, patch, ring. It could include the
Mm.
IUD, which is one of the most effective methods of birth control. And you can't talk to crazy, which is the hard part. If they believe this thing, then how do you the only thing we can say
Yeah.
is 97% of doctors don't agree. So leave medicine to the physicians. And so it absolutely could happen where birth control becomes illegal in your state if your state has
Wow.
defined it this way or is going to define it this way. So please look into your laws and vote for people. Ask them, do you think that a birth control pill or IUD is an abortifacient? And if they say
Mm.
yes, don't vote for them. And
Yeah.
if everyone around you believes that and is running for office, then you need to run for office if you don't believe in that, or find someone to run for office that doesn't believe in that, because those of us with uteruses need the ability to decide when and how many children we have. And not even us with uteruses, it takes two. Families
Mhm.
need to decide when they want to have children and space them apart. And families should be allowed to have sex without needing to get pregnant.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very true, and it's sad that it's such a political debate now versus just it's coming down to reproductive health. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but I definitely agree. Get involved. Write letters to your
March,
leadership. Yep, marches. I
vote,
know.
donate.
Yes, don't forget to vote, donate, all of that good stuff. And then remind me where you can check your laws. Is there a specific website for that?
I generally would trust Guttmacher Institute. They are
Oh
the
yes,
most
that's a good one.
respected reproductive health. Also, Center for Reproductive Rights. They are actually the
Oh,
legal arm of reproductive rights movement, both nationally and internationally, and they're amazing. National Women's Law Center is another great nonprofit that I sometimes turn to. But Alan Guttmacher, Center for Reproductive Rights, National Women's Law Center, those are all good resources to check your state. Or you can do a Google, but you might go down some rabbit hole of weird laws and
always.
stuff.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. Yeah, that's cool. And also, I guess you could move if you don't agree with, but that's obviously a lot harder.
Yeah.
Or run
Not
yourself.
everyone is that
So,
privileged, right?
no, definitely not.
Yeah.
So final question, getting on to a little bit more fun topics. So new year, new you, or new year, just same you, but maybe a little bit different. So, what are some reproductive self-care tips that you would recommend? Not necessarily in just the new year, but just in general. Are there any trends that you've been seeing? Because I know we've been doing those TikToks, that you would say maybe avoid that, or anything you would recommend adding to your routine to just make yourself feel better.
Yeah. So number one, I've seen on TikTok, don't stick anything weird, foreign, or even quote natural up your vagina. Natural meaning people have taken a sea sponge and put it up their vagina. And it's
I
like,
can't with
that
that.
was a living being, and now you dried it and it's a cool sponge. But you stick it up your vagina. Did you sterilize it? Is it going to break into parts? Is it going to grow bacteria, give you toxic shock syndrome? So please do not stick a sea sponge up your vagina. Jade egg, pet peeve. Do not stick a jade
So
egg up
bad.
your vagina. Again, we don't know if it's porous and again could contain bacteria, but more importantly, don't think that you're kegling properly with a jade egg. We were never meant to hold a jade egg in our vagina. Basically,
Yeah.
yeah, don't put any soaps, any douches, any funky smelling stuff to make it smell better or smell differently. Like, I want to make my vagina smell like strawberries or flowers. Is that
It's
normal?
not possible.
No.
No.
Yeah, and our vagina, it has yeast and bacteria living in harmony. And if you
Yeah.
throw sperm up there or douche or soap or weird fragrances, bacteria or yeast will take over, and then you will have one of those infections, and then you'll have to get treated for one and then get treated for the other. It's just, no, don't put anything in there. So that's self-care. Don't steam your vagina. It's not
Oh
natural to
God.
steam your vagina. Um, and then wipes. I just saw a thing on that. They wanted me to rate the best wipes. And I was like, toilet paper. And then if you need extra toilet
Yeah.
paper with water. And then if you want to know what
Right.
my favorite toilet paper is, Charmin Ultra Soft. Not
That's
the
my
strong
favorite.
one, because it's like too strong.
Too
But the
much.
Ultra Soft, I like a lot. But
Agreed.
with
Good to
water if
know.
you need extra. Yeah. And then if you want on the outside, not on the inside of the mucus brain, if you want some moisture or whatnot, you can always put just regular unscented lotion or Vaseline or Aquaphor or olive oil or any oil that you're not allergic to on the
Yes.
outside, not on the inside. And
Not
know
on the
that
inside.
oil can react with condoms. So don't use oil in condoms or whipped cream. I was like, oh, whipped cream in a condom. The whipped
Oh
cream can
Lord.
eat through the condom, unfortunately. So whipped cream got to go on virgin penis, but then STIs,
Wow.
but anyway.
I feel like that would get itchy and just
Yeah,
sticky. I
don't
don't.
put that
It's a
in.
lot.
No, no, don't do that. Again, no
Yeah.
whipped cream in the vagina, please, because that definitely will help bacteria and yeast grow because of the sugar and the milk kind of content in there. Other kind
Man.
of reproductive self-care. There's a whole bunch of vibrators out there to try. A lot of cool stuff. I love Dame. I love Lioness, the most Internet of Things. We
We
actually had a
love
thing with
Lioness.
them. They're very cool. Follow them on TikTok, but also just if you want the most Internet of Things, quantified self orgasm, that's the vibrator for you. But
It's
Dame
so
has a whole bunch
cool.
of cool little ones, and there are other companies as well. One slips my
Lovability.
mind. Yes, I love Lovability because it's not a vibrator. It's a water slide you hook up to your bath and aim at your clitoris or other parts that make you happy. So yes, Lovability. I want to definitely.
And it's also good
that.
while and while we're on the topic of cleaning, that one's also a really good method for just like having cleanliness down there,
Yes,
because
yes.
you just use water and that's really all you need.
Yes.
So I like that. I've heard coconut oil is good, like on the outside. Again, as long as you're not allergic to it. I heard that one's very
Exactly.
natural. There's another, Adam and Eve has a lot of good vibrators as well. They're the top rated
Oh,
one.
cool.
A top rated one for sure. There's a lot of good shows on Netflix now about sexual health, a lot that don't necessarily have the best information, but I recently watched Big Mouth and Sex Education and would actually highly recommend both.
Yes.
I'm not sure if doctors were involved in all of them, so take all the information with a grain of salt, but in the end they are very sex positive. They talk a lot about periods. There's a whole episode on birth control, where the older sister picks the birth control that she wants, and I think she ends up going with the pill, even though the mom recommends the IUD. Classic. But yes, would highly recommend just in terms of content. There's also a lot of books out there related to just sexual health, reproductive health. I'm reading right now The Body Keeps Its Score, which is a little bit more about
Oh.
trauma, but also about reproductive health and all of that. Come As You Are is a great book. So just
What's
lots of
that one
content out
about?
there. That one's actually about just improving your sex life as a woman, or as a person with a uterus rather, and just learning how to listen to your body and understanding. There's a whole section in it on anatomy, which is really cool, because a lot of people don't know that. And
Yeah, a
that's
lot of people
very
don't know
fair.
women have 3 holes down there and men only have 2. Or
Hmm.
1 if you exclude the penis.
Yes. There's actually an episode of Big Mouth about that too, where the girl takes a hand mirror and she looks down there and she's like, "I have 3 holes?" She's like, "Does the butthole count?" And the whole thing, it's an actress,
I have
talks
the
to her
whole
and she's like,
thing.
"Of course it counts." Yeah, it's hilarious. I would recommend. We'll repost it sometime. But that is
Totally.
pretty much, yes, that is pretty
The
much it
2
in
books that
terms of
I like
content. Oh, yes.
are Dr. Jen Gunter has a whole, I think, the Vagina
Oh, she's
Bible she
great.
wrote, and then Dr. Jennifer Lincoln also has something about down there, and that's the book I
Yes.
would have written if I'd gotten it together. So both those authors, both those books, both those doctors, I love.
You wanna come in? Um, before we end, I have a little pop up. My biggest supporters, also a great role model for sexual and reproductive health. Oh, here, I'll take my earphones out. This is my mom. Hi, Dr. Jen. I don't know
Hey,
if
thank
the
you so much for producing an amazing daughter who's so body, sex, feminist, positive. Oh, we can't hear you. Can't hear you. Somehow we lost your audio, but I'm so excited to meet your mom and hear that you guys share clothes, and your dad who always comes and posts comments. Thank you so much and sister. This is a great family. I too have 2 daughters and love young women and people with uteri and people without uteri, but I have a thing for people with uteri.
Fair enough. I think I was muted, so that was the problem. You can hear better now?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
so
good.
much better.
But yeah, also just wanted to give a shout out. I talk to my parents a lot, just openly about these topics, even my dad, which is really beneficial. And I'm obviously very privileged to have that relationship with my parents. But I would recommend to anyone who does feel comfortable talking to their parents already, or maybe if you haven't opened up the conversation yet, to do it. I think it's been really beneficial to be able to just openly discuss these topics. So I would highly recommend it. And I'm sure you have a similar relationship. I know your daughters are a little bit younger, but hopefully, or I have a feeling you will continue that conversation with them as they get older. I'm sure they're already pretty.
They know all the methods. They know
Yeah, of
all
course.
about tampons, maxi pads, menstrual panties, menstrual cups. I'm like, are you sure you don't want to try a menstrual cup? Menstrual cup.
That's really funny. Honestly, I'll be honest, I'm a little afraid to use that. So
It's
I can't
advanced.
it's advanced. But anyway, that is it for tonight. So thank you all so much for watching now, or if you watch on your own time, definitely feel free to keep asking questions, and feel free to share our content with anyone who you think might benefit. Again, I think putting yourself out there and also being that voice for reproductive health is really empowering, and I think a lot of the times it motivates others to do the same. So definitely would recommend that. Do you have any final words you'd like to share, Dr. Yen?
I just want to say it's so great to see supportive parents, and I wish everybody could talk with their parents and have their parents talk freely to them about their expectations for sex, using birth control, not for birth control, for hashtag periods optional, and just, don't ask, don't tell. Talk and prevent disease, prevent unplanned pregnancy, and prevent people having to bleed that don't need to bleed.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much for co-hosting with me. This was great. Again, don't forget to check us out on social media. We have another live next week featuring One Condoms and Sex Ed Boot Camp. I'll be hosting that one. I'm very excited. It's just going to be kind of a little girl talk, very informal. So definitely come with questions. And other than that, we'll be back next month with a new topic. Feel free to leave us topic requests if you have any. And we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
I learned
Happy
something.
New Year.
Happy New Year.